Here's a Pelican Town by W. W. Lemon. Chapter 1. God damn it, problem child. Aizawa should have expected this, really. His class could never do anything without being involved in some villain attack or major incident. And of course, whatever contrarian's fate had decided to curse the underground hero with on any given day always seemed to resolve around Midoriya Izuku. From facing down S-class villains during internship or training camps to breaking his body during this first sports festival. So why did he let Hisashi talk him into chaperoning a class shopping trip? Eraser had rubbed his temples in an attempt to assuage the incoming migraine he could feel coming on. He was hesitant to bring the class back to the mall where Midori had been held hostage by Shigaraki. It seemed like tempting fate. But with Mike arguing that it would be best to keep an eye on him personally, and Midoriya's insistence that he was fine going back, he decided to go ahead with his class. You'd think that he would have learned his lesson by now. A child had been separated from his mother and panicked, accidentally lost control of his quirk. His class had been nearing the child, specifically to Midoriya Izuku and Chihiro Kyoka. The former who moved closer to help the obviously distressed child, the latter placing herself as far from Mineta as she could. When the young boy's quirk activated, bright blue light began filling the area around him, blinding most in the surrounding area, with the two students unable to be seen through the effect. Aizawa was quick to use his own quirk on the child, but the two had completely vanished with no sign of their presence. Nemuri Kayama, better known as the Pro Hero Midnight, began to search for the boy's parents, both to prevent another episode as well as know exactly what quirk he had. While Aizawa stayed back to keep his own class calm and keep the child's quirk suppressed if need be. The disappearance of the Midoriya and Jiro had obviously caused distress with their classmates, but to their teachers' pride, they handled it like the aspiring pros they were. Once it was clear the child's quirk was under control, Araka and Asui moved to keep the child calm and letting him know that heroes were working to find his parents. Yairozu and Todoroki coordinated efforts to keep civilians out of any harm, and Ida assured his class that the teachers would have the situation under control and find out what had happened to their friends. Aizawa, the voice of Nemuri, drew the underground hero's attention. I found the boy's parents. I found out what his quirk is. Good. I'm already regretting coming here, and I just want to get a nap in. So, what is it? I'm guessing some form of teleportation. That was the most likely situation. If a tad annoying not knowing where the two students were. Not exactly. It's a little more complicated than that, said the R-rated heroine, before dropping her voice to a whisper to prevent the class from overhearing. His quirk is able to warp people, but not like the League's warper. Warps them to, quoting the papers directly, different worlds. Blech. Well, that was new. Out of all the possibilities Aizawa thought of, including those that would necessitate visiting the parents of two with condolences, this wasn't one of them. Okay, putting aside the implications that comes with what you just said, is there anything that we can even do? How do we get them back from wherever they are? Good news and bad news. Good news is that two family members had been affected by his quirk before, and in both cases, they both came back to the spot they were in 5 hours. Tension Aizawa didn't know he was holding fell from his body. He wouldn't have to be the one telling families how their children would never be coming back. Okay, that's good. We just have to keep the area clear and wait it out. What's the bad news? The first person, the boy's mother, said that she only remembered being wherever she ended up for around 10 minutes before getting sent back. The second, his older brother, said that he was gone for a week. We don't know how long it will have been for the two, even if they end up at the same place. Knowing the problem child's luck, he'll probably be on the longer side. Aizawa let out a tired sigh. Why couldn't anything involving that kid just end up normally? I'll explain the situation to the police and get the area cordoned off and wait for the two. You explain this to the class and get them back to the dorms. Contact the parents too. They'll want to see the kids after they come back. Nemuri gave a nod and gathered the class up to leave, while Aizawa made his way to the nearest officer, silently praying to whatever listening that Midori and Kyoka came back with nothing more than a funny story and going back to normal in a week. Something in his gut told him that he would be so lucky though. Lewis sat at his dining room table enjoying the last of his breakfast before starting his day. Being the mayor of Pelican Town gave him several responsibilities to oversee, and the small size of the town gave him a personal obligation to carry them out personally. Sure, he could probably find someone willing to be his assistant, but he managed his duties over the years and personally interacting with his neighbors built up the trust that had him elected mayor for 20 years straight. He ran a post for 20 years, but that was probably just a sign of how well he ran the town. Mayor Lewis was finishing his coffee when he heard a knock at his door, startling him. He didn't have any meetings with anyone today, either professional or his more personal dealings with Marnie. It was probably George coming to complain about one of the younger residents doing something that people liked, or Pierre complaining about the recent addition of a JoJo Mart in the town. Both were semi-regular happenings and he was tired of dealing with, as Lewis could neither control the will of the younger generation nor stop the Georges Corporation recent move on their town, as much as he didn't like the business a giant encroaching on a small town. Opening his door to see Elliot, out of breath, sprinting to his doorstep, was not what he... Oh, I'm gonna reread that. Opening his door to see Elliot, out of breath from sprinting to his doorstep, was not what he was expecting. Elliot was far more concerned about completing his first novel than any of the goings of the other residents, so clearly something important must have happened. Mary Louise, Willie, two people, Peach, Harvey's. The young man panted in between heavy breaths. Calm down, Elliot. Just give your first breath. He couldn't understand what Elliot was in a hurry to try to explain to him with his breath so labored. His cabin wasn't that far from Lewis's, so if he was just out of breath, it must have been in a hurry. Eventually, the writer managed to catch his breath and explain the situation with better clarity. Willie found two strangers, a man and a woman, passed out on the beach, probably washed ashore. They were still breathing but weren't waking up, so he had me get you while he and Alex took them to Harvey's clinic, so that you probably want to see them yourself. Well, now that was certainly a reason for a panic. Not much in the way of danger happened in Pelican Town, beyond the monsters in the mine, but Adventure's Guild took care of that. Two random people showing up in the town needing medical attention was not something that happened every day. Or ever, to Lewis's knowledge. I appreciate you getting here quick, Elliot. You can go back home. I'll stop our hobbies to make sure they're okay. Lewis closed the door behind him and made his way to the clinic, but not before asking Elliot some questions about the strangers. Did you get a good look at that too? Not really. Not really. Willie was carrying the woman over his shoulder while Alex was picking up the man. They both had fairly rare hair colors, purple and green, or wearing a uniform similar to a boarding school. I didn't see the faces, but they were on the smaller side, so they might still be students. That's probably good, as Lewis was going to get without seeing them for himself and began making his way towards Harvey's clinic. Alex was having an odd day. What should have been a normal day of training and grid ball practice was interrupted when he began his early morning training on the beach. Normally, Alex was by himself. Sometimes the old fisherman Willie was casting from the pier, or Ellie was staring at random stuff on the beach for inspiration or whatever. But today, Willie was bent over two bodies, thankfully still alive, and was roped into helping them to the clinic while Elliot was told to get Mayor Lewis. Not that Alex minded. He wasn't about to leave some in need of help because he wanted to train. Plus, he even managed to get some training in anywhere, as the guy he was carrying to the clinic was kind of short, but made of pure muscle, making him fairly tough to carry across town. Maybe I should ask the guy for workout tips when he wakes up. Alex and Willie reached Harvey's clinic and placed the two on some beds to be examined. While Willie was explaining how he found them, Alex had finally got a good look at the two. They both had unusual hair colors. The girl purple and the boy green. They were probably a little younger than Alex. The boy had 4 freckles on each cheek, forming a diamond below each eye. A closer look at his right arm showed some serious scarring. the kind that came from injuries that ended pro athletes. The girl was even weirder, as she had what looked like, at the end of her earlobes, auxiliary cords coming from her ears. Although Alex thought about tugging on one to see if they were real or if it would come off. But the good doctor, ending his conversation with Willie and beginning his examination, stopped him before he could. Weird ear things or not, Alex decided to stick around, wanted to make sure they were all right. But Harvey moved him out of the room, telling him the examination would be private. So while Willie went back to his shop, he started to make a living. Alex sat down and grabbed a magazine to pass the time. The mayor entered the clinic not so long after Alex sat down. After telling Lewis what he knew and being told that he would be informed when the two recovered, he left and got back to his interrupted training. Well, they should make a full recovery. The only reason I can tell for them still being out is exhaustion. The town's local. I'm gonna restart that. Well, they should make a full recovery. The only reason I can tell for them being still out for being out is exhaustion. Well, they should make a full recovery. The only reason I could tell for them still being out is exhaustion. The town's local doctor, Harvey, told Lewis. His initial examination for any potential life-threatening injuries didn't take too long, but after seeing the scarring on the boy's arms and the strange protrusions from the girl's ears, he took some x-rays and a nerve conduction test, which took some time. Lewis was kind enough to bring the man some lunch after he lost track of time with his newest patients. Harvey led Lewis to the room the two were recovering in, while going over what they had found. But they both seemed to be in exceptional shape, suggesting a lot of physical activity. But I am rather concerned with the amount of scarring on the boy's arms. Whatever caused that injury gave him some permanent ligament damage to the point he may lose function in the arm permanently with a few more breaks. In addition, they both have evidence of a concerning number of microfractures over their body. Lewis turned to look at the two strangers. He knew better than to make exceptions based off of appearance, but for the life of him he just couldn't picture either the one starting trouble and causing fights to receive that many injuries in their lives. Maybe the boy got injured in some sort of full-body sport, probably culminating in whatever happened to his arms. The girl might have gotten harassment from whatever was going on with her ears. Pelican Town may be a welcoming community, but not every place was so tolerant. Harvey continued his diagnosis, breaking Lewis from his thoughts. They both seemed to have, for lack of a better description, changes to their body. Both? Asked the mayor. The girl's abnormalities was obvious, but he couldn't see anything different about him. If the green hair was fairly uncommon, but wasn't that strange? Yes, both. The boy may not have any obvious oddities, but his muscle and bone density are much higher than the norm. He could probably take any number of monsters in the mines with his bare hands. And I'm sure you've seen the cables coming from the girl's earlobes. They're fairly hard to miss. Thought Lewis, but he didn't want to interrupt the doctor. What's surprising is that they're not just continuations of the ear cartilage, but contain nerves and musculature. I can't tell until she wakes up, but it's likely that the cables are completely prehensile. I like to run a brain scan on her to see what changes in addition of the two new limbs that caused. But I don't have the equipment here. Harvey began to continue with more information about the boy's musculature that Lewis did not fully comprehend, so he simply nodded along to the doctor as he let his mind wander. Both of them were clearly not from anywhere near Pelican Town. Their uniforms didn't match any sort of boarding school within 100 miles. And surely some news about the girl with the earlobes limbs or a boy with super dense muscles would have spread around, even if only as gossip. With the war between the Fringile Republic and Garrodo Empire, news from the later nation was sparse. They could have come from the Empire, but neither of them looked like the natives of Gatoro. Last thing possible lead was in mind was the wizard Rasmodius, who lived in the forest west of Pelican Town. But beyond the girl having purple hair and the two being odd, he had really noticed anything else. He really had nothing else to claim that he was involved somehow. Lacking any better option, Lewis decided to make a trip to visit the wizard later later in the day after making a post on the town bulletin board for a town-wide meeting tomorrow. As he thanked the doctor for his help and made his way out of the clinic, he had barely walked 10 paces before Harvey ran out the door, uh, practically dragged Lewis back inside. The cause for the sudden retrieval was clear as Lewis rushed back to the room he had just left. As a pair of strangers had been lying unconscious, were both slowly but surely rising from their forced sleep.
Okay, thank you all for listening. That was chapter 1 of Heroes of Pelican Town. I will not be uploading these often. I forget. But I hope you enjoyed. I love Stardew Valley and My Heart Academia, and this is my favorite crossover fic. It's so good. Yeah. Anyways, thank you for listening.